I'm going to put it on my phone so we can see.
Does it need to be plugged in?
I don't know what the battery is. Maybe. Do whatever you want. Sorry, we're getting there. We're getting there. Let's see.
Oh. What? Okay. Wow, this works. Good morning, everybody. Oh gosh.
It's fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine. All right. Let's get started.
Hey, we've got Peggy, we've got Josh, we've got Shelby and Allison.
All right, ready?
Okay. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Jason.
We matched today.
We do.
On accident.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our final discussion of Red Rising, but not our final discussion of Red Rising, the series, apparently.
Because we randomly drew the next book. And I'm actually very excited about it now. Let's finish all the things.
So, if this is your first time joining us and you have not read all of the first book in the series, Red Rising, you need to stop the video, back it up, go read the book, and then join us again once you've finished reading. We don't want to spoil anything for you, and we do talk about everything that happens in the book. If you're catching us live, please chat away in the chat. And if you're catching us on the replay, chat away in the comment section. We love to hear what you have to say about the book, and we love reliving the book, even if it's years later. That's all good with us. We are also on YouTube Music as a podcast. If you're interested in that, it's at Books We Never Read. And we have tons of other books playlisted for you in the playlist section of our channel. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can read if you don't want to join us for book 2 of Red Rising.
Everybody's saying that we should pick a new hat.
It's the hat's fault.
Yeah.
Hat karma, hat betrayal,
Yep.
new hat.
So now that we've got all the stuff out of the way, I'm gonna say this, and I recognize that I'm probably the only person in the book club at the moment who thinks this. I loved this third reading, and I'm excited about the next book because it was slow for the first one. It was extra slow for the second reading. I had a blast on this last one, and I did not expect to. But I made a lot of notes and things, and we'll talk. But I am personally excited.
I'm glad to go ahead and read the second book because I still am acknowledging that so many people love this series, and so I'm missing something, you know. And I don't hate it. I'm just excited when I'm done reading, so I can move on to something else.
I will say this, that I think that I did not care for the audiobook that you were listening to. I definitely had a better time reading than I did listening to the audiobook.
Because their accents are really annoying.
Yeah, the accents are kind of a problem.
But that's
I don't know why.
That's their gold speech, high gold speech or whatever. Oh, it's just terrible. Peggy says, "Can you believe the next book is longer than this one?"
Is it really? So we will have to, of course, put out a syllabus today, and we might only do 2 episodes. We need to talk about that. We need to take a week off, and so maybe what we do is...
Well, it might be 3 episodes over 4 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so we might drag this out a little bit.
Golden Sun better be good.
But so let's slow down for a second. What'd you think about this last reading? Like, compared to the rest of the book, what'd you think about, like, the ending? What do you think?
It was fun. You know, it was fun to see some action and taking Olympus, and you know, him really setting himself apart, doing something totally different than all the other Golds have ever done, which is what his role is supposed to be.
Yeah.
The ending was interesting, with the Jackal's dad taking him under his wing, and so that'll be interesting, you know, and he made the right call by going with him instead of going from the person he could actually like learn great things from.
Yeah.
Because Darrow is remembering his mission.
Right.
And he has remembered it throughout the whole thing for the most part, and I'm very impressed with that because it would be very easy for Darrow to just be like, these are my friends and these are not my friends, and I'm good at being a gold, and
Right.
like he could easily be sidetracked.
I still think that that's a possibility that we run into in some later book where he realizes that like why would I ruin this system when I have it good,
Right.
and like I should just keep going, you know?
Right.
Like that's definitely possible.
And that's reality.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you know, when you're young, you want to fight against the system and you want to make these changes in the world, and you see how the adults have messed it up, and you see how you're on the right track to fix it. And then once
Yeah.
you become an adult and you end up in a situation that's very comfortable, you're like, yeah, but and yes, this is still bad, but like I'm in a good position, and,
Yeah.
and it's not as uncomfortable.
Well, he sort of has this conversation with Augustus, right? With Mustang and the Jackal's father, where he says like, yes, but me and my friends, we are different. And he's like, yeah, everybody thinks that. And he's like, no, but for me, it's true. And one of the things I liked about this third reading was I felt like there were some like really great lines that just didn't exist in the other parts of the book, and that was one of them because you can see sort of like the foolishness of youth there, and you can also think like it makes you wonder
The
like
optimism of youth,
Yeah,
though, you know,
yeah.
it's not foolishness.
it's foolishness. It's both. It can be both. But like, what did Augustus think, right?
Right.
What world did he think he was going to create before he became this thing he becomes now? And why do we have any reason to think that Darrow is right and that he will pull something off? You know,
Right.
and that he just won't become the next Augustus or whatever. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
But like story wise, I think that some of like the zingers in this, some of the lines in this one were really good, and that's part of what made me like it the most. I also think that this third reading got the pacing right compared to the rest of the book. The worst part about the second reading that we had was that it was full of starving children continuing to starve.
Yeah.
And most of it was them like eating raw meat, trying to figure out how to make fire, and that just got really old.
Yeah.
But I think that for whatever reason, the pacing, the story moved along. We hit milestones. We would skip like weeks at a time. We skipped the entire situation, whatever it was, between Mustang and the Jackal. We don't know if it was a battle. We don't know if she walked in there and betrayed him.
Right.
We don't even ever talk about it because, frankly, it doesn't matter. You know, what matters is
matter.
that Jackal was defeated and that Darrow wins and that Mustang is loyal to him. And so I think there were some good pacing choices here in this third one because we could have done another battle, right? Like we could have seen that.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to. I got it.
So one thing I do appreciate about this book, since this is a series, you know, with lots of books in it, a lot of series, and I'm not even going to say a lot, like the Hunger Games, right? Like you get this story, but then they decide to go back and create a prequel so that you can see like what happened before. And I might be misunderstanding, but we got the prequel here in this book, and that's part of like we got his origin story.
Yeah.
We know where he came from. We know his family. We know what his life was like. We know what makes him stronger than the average human with his little viper heart situation. So I do like that we got all of this up front, and we didn't have to stop the story to go back
Right.
and learn about these things.
I still think that one of my biggest criticisms is that we didn't spend enough time in like the red world. I still think the reveal that Mars is populated and okay was way too short, right? Like talk about pacing problems, right? Like them popping up there and then decide they were just gonna like go at it and then pop back down in the mines. It was weird. And also, you know, he even points out in this reading that Io has now been dead longer than he was married to her.
I know, I highlighted that. That was sad.
It is sad, but also I kind of like Mustang, and I hope they have something. And but it kind of highlights like I get that like Io's death was traumatic, and I get that like the way the Reds are treated is traumatic, and that is the whole impetus for him doing what he is going to be doing. But it wasn't traumatic enough for me. Right, like it just wasn't. We spent such little. Like this thing he's going through in Aegea is worse, in my experience of it, than any of his mine life, other than like people getting hung and stuff like that. You know,
What's that terrible movie that has all these like epic moments, but they don't feel like anything?
Rebel Moon.
That's it.
Yes.
It's a Rebel Moon beginning.
Yes.
Yep.
It
It has all the pieces that should make up something we care about, but
I just don't feel enough about it.
yeah.
And like I get it, they had bad lives, but like most people have had bad lives, and I want them to be free, and I want them to do better, and to be able to. I don't like the idea of a caste society, uh, but I just don't feel connected to that motivation. You know, so that's one.
You mentioned that there were some good zingers and good little liners and stuff in this third part. I have one of my 3 highlights is the word whore fart.
Don't let me drink.
I'd have to let this little whore fart win and let his father smile and feel pride.
Can we say that on YouTube? I don't know.
I said it.
There you go.
I was just reading from the book. It's a quote. It's legit.
Yeah.
I'd even let my students say it because they were reading it from the book.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I want to catch up with the chat real quick. Some people are talking about how the second book is supposed to be the best. Josh has heard this from some people. I have also heard this from some people, and so I am looking forward to the book because, 1.5 million reviews can't be wrong. It can't be.
Right. No, yeah, I've heard that the second book is the strongest, and which is refreshing for a trilogy because usually the second book is kind of like it's just a little more the first, you know, or it's kind of slow. Yeah, did not expect Sever's dad.
So there were a couple really great twists here. One was Sever's dad, and the other one was Mustang and the Jackal being twins. I thought those were both really great. And Severo's dad just adds like an interesting level of flavor to both Severo and to the Proctor, whatever his name was. And it gives him some motivation for being like begrudgingly helpful, despite the fact that he has been bought to help the Jackal and everything. And then they kind of knocked him out anyway and like left him tied up in a dungeon, and his son was terrible to him, and I liked all of that. So. I'm going to sneeze. I'm very sorry.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. It's me. Okay.
It's such a loud sneeze.
But yeah, so both of those were really good. And talking about Mustang and the Jackal, she had this conversation where she says something like, I might have highlighted it. You do whatever you can to win, and when you can't do that, you cheat.
Yeah.
And that was like the point of what the Jackal is doing. And I was like, that's so dumb, right? Like this is supposed to be a meritocracy. It's so dumb. And the longer I like marinated on that, the more I realized that like our society is like this. And if you're at the top and you can't win, you just cheat, and then you win.
Yeah.
And the more I thought about it, the more it like kind of all made sense, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of very realistic aspects to this, like how he does come to trust Mustang, and how he does come to trust Cassius, and how he does come to trust all these people and think that they're his friends, and momentarily forgetting he's gonna have to like kill them all at some point,
Yeah. So that brings us to another point, that Severo probably knows that he's a red and has chosen not to tell. So this brings me to 2 things. There were 2 parts of this at the end that did not make sense to me, and they're just like kind of throwaway lines, and I'm interested in seeing what y'all think. One of them was whenever he pledges himself to Augustus, they kind of make a comment that everybody was blown away by the impropriety of it. Mm-hmm. And it's not clear to me why what they did was improper. I guess except that like this kid beat his kid, but Darrow probably beat everybody's kids. Like, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that Augustus is not House Mars. He's probably House Pluto. Even though there's no evidence that like there's legacy drafts or whatever, like I don't know, but so Mars is supposed to get first pick of Darrow, and he went and like cut the line. I think that's the problem. The second issue that I had is that when they're taking Olympus and they're waiting for Mustang to come back, he puts Severo on like the computers to edit the video footage, and it says that Severo knows what I want the story to show, and what you think at that time is that it's going to show the Proctor's cheating and Augustus cheating so that Darrow is kind of protected. But that's not what it shows, because nobody knows that happened whenever Darrow pledges himself to Augustus. So what does Severo know that the story is supposed to show? Like, what did the broadcast show? I just don't know, Did he edit out all the footage of cheating? Is that what it was supposed to show? I don't know. I didn't really. That part was not really clear to me.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
I don't know anything about this book.
No.
Honestly.
Okay.
I was kind of like reading summaries and stuff. I'm like, I mean, I read it, but I don't know. I don't know anyone's name. I don't know what happened. I don't know. So I'm hoping I'm more with it in book 2. I'll try harder. But yeah, I am curious about like what's next for them. You know, they finished school and so now they have their little apprenticeships or something. I guess just paid to have his kid win. Then they didn't, and he chose to ignore them and go get the winner when the winner is continuing his blood feud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheat or be cheated. That's the quote that keeps coming up over and over again.
And that was one of my other favorite things was Darrow was all horrified that Mustang doesn't tell him that Jackal is her brother, but he doesn't tell her that he's a Red. Like he's doing the same thing, right? And he's cheating in a way. So I just kind of hypocrisy is not quite the right word, but I love the hypocrisy of this third part where like nobody is supposed to be doing this thing, everybody is doing this thing, but you're doing this thing better than everyone else, so it's cool.
And it still is just showing that human nature coming through, and Darrow, his inner narration talks a lot about how he is forged by love, and love is his strength, and all that, and so he can't help but have love for some of his peers, and while he is remembering that at some point he has to like be the best at all this to bring down the system from the inside, he can't help but feel betrayed when the people that he loves is betraying him, and him just to forget that he's really betraying everyone, and but that's such a human thing, right? That you can shut those parts off and you can do some mental gymnastics because what you're doing is right.
Yes.
And you're doing it for everyone's good, even without their knowledge or consent.
Well, and at some point he even makes mention that he can see how democracy doesn't work and how it has to be the strong to like he kind of gets what Golds are doing, just doesn't think that they are doing it right or something. You know what I mean? Like he's not like a libertarian. He's not. He's a conqueror, and that is what he's being made out to be. He's just going to conquer in the name of some other group. Yeah.
Peggy points out that Cassius is ridiculous for holding on to that anger, and I think she's talking about the anger of Darrow killing his brother
out of necessity.
That is so frustrating to me. Someone had to come out of that room, and it was either going to be one or the other. Cassius had to do the same thing. Why would you even be mad about it? This is the system that is letting you be a ruler. And Cassius likes the system. The whole thing is stupid.
And he participated in it.
Right. He had to do it too.
Yeah.
And so again, also just like stupid government control, like creating these blood feuds in those rooms, right? Like they're pitting families against each other, knowing intentionally or hoping that one particular person's going to get killed off, and the families continue to hate each other instead of the government, which is the same thing the Reds were doing when they didn't get their laurel. They ended up hating the other team instead of hating the government that has it set up for the other team to win the whole time.
Right. Playing everybody off each other. And at some point, I think it's Augustus says that, like there would be kings, but the peerless Scarred pulled them down, So like there's this upper class that keeps any one person and from getting too much power. And they talk a lot, they always using these Roman analogies and stuff, but this is it's all very triumvirate between Pompey, Caesar, and was it Brutus? It wasn't Brutus. I can't remember who the other one was. It doesn't matter. It was Augustus, Pompey, maybe Brutus. It doesn't matter. But like those three guys kept any one person from becoming the emperor until that one guy defeated everybody and then became the emperor. But there's like a system, and the system is in a way self-policing. in a way. But everybody has their level that you have to belong in, and like Subro's
Right.
father, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, but I mean, I expected nothing better out of Cassius with him having that name. Just it's too strong of a tie to Shakespeare's Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
And the lean and hungry look, and that Cassius is the sneaky snake that keeps the fire fueled. And this Cassius is serving that role very well.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of my favorite notes I made. When Darrow becomes blood brothers with somebody, and Mustang is like, I don't understand. Why don't you just, like, that didn't make sense. Why don't y'all just be Pinecone cousins? I thought that was really funny.
Pinecone cousins.
Oh, yeah, sure. Whatever. You can be whatever you want to be.
Pinecone cousins. Yeah. It was real sad when he found Rock.
Like, alive?
Barely.
Yeah.
And like unrecognizable.
Yeah. And that's just kind of thrown out there, right? Hey, Rock's alive. He shows up for like a page and a half and then goes away again. We never mention him.
Was he dying in that moment? I thought he was kind of dying.
No, I think he's okay.
Alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was just surviving the siege. And I think he's going to come back as a sort of loyal lieutenant in either the second book or further. My absolute favorite line, if you didn't know already, I've made a meme about it, was whenever they say they took Mustangs and now we take Olympus. I went nuts. I did not see that coming. This book would have been so much less without that. If it had just been like them playing by the rules, hanging out in the valley, not here for that.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, now I'm in.
And that's Darrow foreshadowing to all of that hierarchy what he's there to do. Yeah. There will be no real surprise when Darrow does rise up and destroy this whole system. Yeah. I also really like that part, but I like it because I'm thinking of the Iliad as I read this and how frustrating the Iliad is because all the major wars are really caused by a god coming in and like launching an arrow real quick and then dipping out and making it look like this guy did it, you know? Yeah. So then there's a whole war and it's ridiculous or a whole battle and it's ridiculous and the whole time that you're reading the Iliad you're like, just go get the god, like get him out of there, you know, and these kids did that.
You know, so this makes me think of something about like somebody throwing the arrow and starting the war. Whenever they're like at the graduation ceremony, they mentioned that like y'all forgive me, I don't remember the name, the Doom Knight or whatever, right? There's this like crazy person who's like ultra honorable, but he is like the greatest warrior. And Darrow looks at him, knows who he is, and says, that's the guy who sent me my little unicorn and my Hamanthus or whatever. How did he know that? How did he know that it was that guy?
I don't know.
And why do we think that?
I don't know. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to try to find it in the book.
I was looking for it because I thought I might have highlighted it, but I'm not sure that I did. There it is. Okay. So old Lorna Al Arcos is there. I recognize him even without his drafter's mask. The Rage Knight, the man who sent me my Pegasus and Dancer's Ring, a man of perfect honor, and the leader of the third most powerful house of Mars.
And he's like, I could learn from him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, why is that the guy who's sending him his stuff? Is he somehow tied in with
the brother,
Dancer and the Brotherhood and Ares, or is it because he is honorable and he's trying to like balance the scales? That part just wasn't very clear, or even how Darrow knows that.
Yeah. He chose to serve the society by safeguarding the society's compact instead of reaching for crowns and politics. That was earlier in the book.
Shelby's saying that she wants some of these alliances to join Darrow when he does reveal his real purpose. And will the Sons of Ares like even begin to allow that? Like, is there a place in this new society for golds? And like there probably has to be, because they're like or like the copper golds or whatever, right? They're like admin.
Yeah, there's lesser golds,
right?
right?
Like you need those people. I don't know.
I want to know, okay, so at some point, we've got to go back to Dancer and Harmony, right? At some point, we need to check in on the mission, huh?
Yeah.
And at some point, we need to see Evie again. And what's that going to be about? That was the pink that he told...
With the wings.
Harmony to take care of. Yeah. What's up with her? And then is there going to be some love triangle between him and Evie and Mustang?
Hmm.
A little competition there for a relationship. Golden Sun title is a clue that the other characters aren't going to be in the next book.
Interesting.
Pax's death, that was sad.
That was sad. The whole thing where like he caught that guy being the jackal and then like stabbed his hand through the table and everything, that was a really good scene. That's the scene where Mustang like first betrays him because she doesn't say, hey, that's my brother.
She did say like, hey, can we talk outside?
Yeah, she does. She does. But then like him, that dude sawing his hand off and then stabbing Pax, that part was traumatic. It was more traumatic for me than like the hanging at the beginning.
I love it when we hear that inner monologue of Darrow and he's like, oh God, he's sawing his hand off. Like, I didn't see that coming. This guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Peggy thinks Evie was inconsequential.
She might be.
It was just a small act of kindness and service that he could do at that time.
I'm ruined by like Wheel of Time, where there's a, like if somebody named their horse shows up in book 7, and it's important. So like, you never know. I'm always watching for these minor characters. Another line that I liked was when Darrow asks Severo's father, he says, I asked them what they will swing. I have all the axes. It's a good line. I really enjoyed that. Oh, so then here's another thing that I thought was insane and made me very uncomfortable. When he goes to Olympus and he's talking to Severo's father, he meets them in the dining hall of Olympus. Do you remember what the floor is made of? Condensed air. So we are suspended above a mild vertical drop. No thank you.
Wow. They really do think that they just like playing little god roles. They're in their little clouds on Olympus. It's so stupid. I mean, you just can't help but root for them to all fall apart.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got in here.
Yeah, let me see what I highlighted other than whore fart.
So here's another thing, and this is in reference, I think, to Mustang, but Darrow says to himself, there is goodness in golds, because in many ways they are the best humanity can offer, but they are also the worst. And I thought that was a good line. That just makes this a little more complicated. You know, like, yes, they're bad people, and like, yes, they are enslaving people and creating this caste system, and also like murdering each other. They are our best. They are our worst, but they are also capable of our best. And I thought that was good.
Yeah. What else you got?
So I also liked how at graduation it was like a nothing ceremony. And he kind of has like, it's almost like what you see with people who come back from war, because he went through this incredibly traumatic experience and then it was just over. And there's something about like the human, I think a lot about like rituals and things that we do to take something that is mental and turn it physical, because I think it's important for us to do that. And like, so like a graduation, let's say, of just a regular school in the real world. You've done this thing for 4 years, and then like, just what if you didn't go anymore? What if they were just like, okay, cool, and you just don't go anymore? And like, there's no dividing line of like where that ends and where your new life starts, and that can be a struggle for people to adapt to. And that's why I think a graduation ceremony is important. We in the Western world, at least, don't really have ceremonies of like becoming an adult, and I think that's weird. And if we had a ceremony where like you're an adult now, that would do something for people to feel like they're no longer a child, instead of being 35 years old thinking you're a child still, or whatever, you know. But so Darrow talks about this a little bit, and he says, he looks at his sling blade and wonders how useless it has just become. It's as though we're supposed to congratulate one another, cheer or something, but there's only silence, a hollow silence for the victors and losers all. Because the graduation ceremony is a giant nothing. They've gone through this thing for months where they've killed each other and like crucified kids and sexually assaulted people and, you know, eaten other human beings and all sawed their own hands off. And then people come down out of the clouds and they get on their shuttles and they go home, and that's it, you know. And like, what a weird traumatic experience they've been through with no sort of closure, you know.
Yeah.
And this again reminds me of the Iliad and the Odyssey, where these people, there's a very interesting book by a psychologist called Achilles in Vietnam, and it talks about um, the sort of like having to go through these long wars and the struggle of trying to adapt back into society.
Yeah, how do you turn that
Yeah.
off?
Yeah, and then there's
Yeah.
a sequel to that, Odysseus in America, and you sort of, you know, Odysseus goes through this whole journey of trying to unwind from this war, and then comes home, and then like kills a bunch of people.
Kills everybody,
Yeah.
not just the men,
Yeah,
but the women and the children too.
yeah, well done,
Yeah.
well done.
And that's a huge part of the theme is,
Yeah.
you know, you can't just send someone off to war forever and ever and keep them running around and then just expect them to immediately reform back into regular society.
Yeah, and so I think that's sort of an interesting nod back again to sort of those things of now the war's over, everybody goes home, right? The ships have returned, and they take them all away, and then that's it. And all the friends that you've made, and the bonds that you've made, and these alliances, and these skills that you've learned, and this thing that has kept you alive no longer matters. And everything, your whole little world is changed.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, they did very real acts.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not a real war. This was not a real problem.
Yeah. Peggy says, "Don't forget the scalping." Yeah, they scalped people. You know what I mean? Like, but and then something to say. I think part of the point of Achilles in Vietnam was about, you know, the terrible things that people did in Vietnam, either because they thought they had to, or they were ordered to, or just because they did, or whatever. But that there really needed to be some sort of thing where there was almost this ritual of saying, like, you are forgiven, right? Like it is over, you're done, you're back to being one of us now. And there needed to be this sort of transformation, right? Psychically for these people.
That war is also an example, a real life example of people being angry at the people who were not in charge of the decisions, instead of being angry at the government who allowed this thing to be perpetuated.
Sure.
And I do like that about this book, that it does bring out a lot about the human condition and human habits that are not very pretty, and that we don't like to really look at and acknowledge.
Yeah.
But it's a very real thing, and it worked there too. Oh no, I'm pushing things. Where'd my chat go? Make it come back.
Peggy mentioned Lord of the Flies. There's a similar
never read
vein
that.
there.
I mean, I get it, and I know what it's about, but I've never read it. Squid Games. That was such an interesting show.
Yeah, it was an interesting show. And Peggy mentions Bob Ross. I don't really know anything about him. You're kind of the Bob Ross fan of the family, so I don't. Was he in Vietnam?
I believe he was.
Interesting. Yeah. But so that's a good example of somebody who's able to like healthily reintegrate. You know, but still, you have to have these. I'm a big believer in sort of like the mythology of the mind and these structures and stories that we tell ourselves. And I think that the stories we tell ourselves are important. And Darrow is telling himself a story, right? That it's okay for him to murder these people because he's liberating the Reds. That it's okay for him to lie to people because he's bringing about this better society, right? This is all this fabric. He's doing the same things everybody else is doing, but he has this myth in his head that he is adhering to. And to be able to add parts to the myth or transition the myth into like a new place or whatever, the stories that we tell ourselves matter.
Yep. He also, and this is quite dangerous and part of being a human, thinks that it's okay that he has done these things, partially because he feels so bad about it after doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and that you think that that's your forgiveness there, is that you feel really bad about it.
You know, I don't. We've talked about this several times before, but like, I just don't buy into the idea that there's anything that you can do that balances the scales, right? Like, we act like this, and it's probably important that we act like this, but like realistically, in like a mental way, like, are you lying to yourself? There's no like cosmic scale, right? That like I think about like the Egyptian god where they like weigh your heart and all that stuff. You know, that doesn't happen, and so. I'm not saying that this thing is unneeded. You know, somebody has to go and make this like sacrifice of themselves to do these terrible things to liberate the Reds. I'm not sure if there is another way, you know, and he's the one who's doing that, but it's a burden that he will have to carry forever, you know. And there might, and then you could still have those second guessings. Like, what if there was another way?
Right. And there should be.
There should be.
I wonder, you know, at the end of all of this, can Darrow live? You know, and would he want to?
Oh man, what if this is like a Caesar situation? What if we get to the last book and they kill Darrow?
Et tu, Brute.
Oh man, that would be really something.
Et tu, Dancer.
A2 Evie.
I mean, I kind of feel
Or
like
Mustang.
he will have to be removed.
Yeah.
You know, he is the, what do they call it? Dictator for
Yeah.
the season, for the dictator for the purpose at hand.
I
you
know I say this a lot, but that Batman line about Two-Face or whatever his name is, where you know you live you live a villain or you die before you become the villain or whatever it is, you know, and what if that becomes Darrow? He liberates the Reds but creates this demented society. Yeah, that'd be really something.
Yeah, I don't see him living in a little picket fence house with a happy family and children by the end of this.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's very much like Ender, you know, in Ender's Game. He has been created for this thing, and he is not to feel bad about what he becomes. He is just this, and we aren't to feel bad for him for what he's become.
And Ender does feel bad.
He does, yeah. And goes on his whole quest to meet the aliens and whatever. But he wasn't supposed to, you know.
Did you catch that they mention Ender in this book?
Did they?
Yes. So I'm not exactly sure about this, but I believe they do. There is a point where they mention all these great conquerors, and they say, you know, Augustus and Alexander, Napoleon, and then the last one they mention is Wigan.
Oh, dang, good catch.
Yeah, I think that's a nod to Ender's Game.
Yeah. And why wouldn't it be?
I can't think of a great commander named Wigan.
They mentioned all these other things, and oh, that's kind of a cool nod. Do we need to change the color of the star?
Oh, because we have gold stars.
Oh, red star.
Red star. Gold star is fine. Yeah.
We had gold star before they made it.
Yeah.
Ugly.
So we actually had a lot to say about this, right? This third part really is full of a lot of like interesting things. Not sure about the other parts, but this one was.
I'm really pumped about your Ender catch.
Oh yeah.
That's really cool because mythology and real history have been playing such an important role. Everything between the Iliad and Machiavelli and I mean, like, this story has been blending history, mythologized history, and mythology. You know, like, so why not throw Ender in there?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Well done, Pierce.
Pierce Brown? Brosnan? No, different guy.
Different Pierce. Also, though, Pierce Brosnan, is he still alive? If you're watching this, hello.
And why aren't you talking in the chat?
Yeah, join the chat, please. Recent story about a pulse of light 19 blah blah pecks away. Rocky!
I apologize if you're watching this, but somebody I know recently made a post about how they were reading, what's the name of the book? That book with Rocky in it.
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary, right. They made a post about how they were reading Project Hail Mary and they couldn't finish it. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure we can be friends anymore.
Oh, why? Oh, it's so good.
It was so good.
I would read it again.
I have read it again. I have not. I'm making that up.
Oh. I'm like, when?
I didn't. I don't have time to read other books. This is all I got. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we're wondering, who are we? I assume we're gonna see Darrow and Jackal's dad hanging out, learning things, doing stuff.
Yeah. I kind of have the feeling that we're going to move on to like the next school, right? Like where he learns to be a fleet captain, or I don't know. I really have no good guesses about what the next book will be.
Yeah. Son of Gold. No,
Golden
Sun.
Sun. Yeah. Same thing.
Whatever. Yeah, and what kind of like beef is this going to create between him and the Jackal? You know.
Yeah.
How much can those kids let go of that happened here? You know.
I mean, if the Jackal gets his hand back, I feel like we can let go of a lot. If he's
got hooks,
unhanded for the rest of his life, I'm gonna hold that grudge.
Yeah, did he get the hand all the way off?
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's why they let him go.
Ooh.
Or he escaped because he kills Pax.
Pax.
He kills Pax, which obviously I think most of our viewers know. Pax means peace in Latin, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. With his feminine laugh.
Yeah.
Like he had a contagious laugh that became feminine at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I need to hear what that might be.
It's probably like mine. Titters at the end.
Titters. Yeah, there's a dramatic reading of the second one too. You know, I had to give up on that dramatic reading.
Oh.
One.
Okay.
We were just listening to the regular one.
Gotcha.
Our regular audiobook had, as at the very end, a sung version
of
EO's song.
That was cool.
And that just makes me think of the Hunger Games. So like,
Yeah.
Are you going to the tree or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of similarities between all these books at this time. You know, at this time of writing. You know, and between dystopian novels in general, like there's only so much you can do.
There were a lot of dystopias that popped up, like dystopian books that popped up.
Well, so I mean, these are like the early 2000s. You know, whenever these things are showing up, these are all like post 9/11, Occupy Wall Street kind of things, and like you see dystopian novels show up at that time, and you see vampire stuff show up at that time, and I think because it speaks to like the underlying stressors of that time. Yeah.
Speaking of vampire stuff, Peggy points out when you said a million reviews can't be wrong. She said, "What about Twilight?"
Look, they can be wrong. That was like semi-making a joke, but I'm hoping.
But I have never read Twilight. I had a ton of students who read Twilight when I was a teacher, and they loved it.
Yeah, the movies struggled, but the actors in the movies, it's my understanding, they literally decided they were going to quit before they were done, and so they're bad acting because they just didn't care anymore.
I don't know about all that, but
I don't know if it's true.
I'm pushing things. Oh gosh, but yeah. So I wonder. I've not read the books. I wonder if the books are actually good.
I'm putting it in the hat.
No. Please no.
Okay, let's see.
So there we go. The trauma's going to continue for these kids, is what Shelby says. I mean, you can't just wipe that clean.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah. Peggy says that she told Shelby that she expected acknowledgments to say, "Thanks to the authors of the books I stole from this." Yeah.
Whoops.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm going to point out that, like, there's this weird thing, and I'll mention Ender's Game again, that Ender's Game is one of the earliest books I can think of, because I believe it predates Harry Potter. It might be around the same time as the first Harry Potter, that has sort of this, like, school mindset but there's different houses. They have the dragons, and they have whatever, right? Like, they're divided into these different armies. And so, that's a very old trope. And I think it's weird, but like, all right, whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You got the band kids, you got the football kids, you got the soccer kids.
Yeah. Well, and you have like fraternities that are a real thing.
The chess club kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then colleges you have fraternities. I don't know. Do they keep their nicknames after the Institute? Yeah, is he going to be the Reaper forever?
I don't know that everybody will keep their nicknames, but he will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the song mentions the Reaper, which I thought was interesting. That song, one of the repeating parts of the song is like, in the Reaper, something. I don't.
What if one of these books is where he becomes like a lieutenant in a fleet? He's not quite lieutenant. Maybe he's not quite the commander yet, but what if that fleet is called upon to go and put down rebellion on some moon or asteroid or something, and then they like nuke it and kill everybody there. And what if he goes along with this because that's what it takes for him to like continue to rise in the ranks? That would be a really interesting story of this sort of like genocide to prevent a genocide. It'd be like in Devil in the Dark Water, the captain who was involved in like the destruction of that island.
Yeah.
You know, and he just did it because like that was the way that his fortunes would rise, and how would Darrow justify all that? That'd
That's
be
what,
interesting.
he's not going to be able to live after all this.
Yeah.
It's going to be too much cruelty.
Yeah.
Because you can't just get rid of some of the golds.
Yeah.
And the golds are adults and children and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, you hear the Reaper swing, not just repeated over and over again. So I feel like that song's going to become even more powerful once he becomes known worldwide as the Reaper.
Mr. Worldwide.
Hear the Reaper swing.
Now
his curved blade.
I just see Pitbull as Darrow. That'd be fun.
Yeah, who are you casting in this movie?
Pitbull.
Is there a movie of this?
No. I don't even know that there's a plan to make one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's so much violence in here. It'd have to be like R-rated, which is fine. Like they could certainly do it, but I feel like people would still want to leave a lot of it out. It's just too much to see.
There's a lot. This was bad.
Yeah. Or like there's mention of like they're attacking the Mars castle and there's 3 dead crucified people. Nothing gives me heebie-jeebies like that. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not here for that kind of torture. Y'all kill me.
Read the first couple pages of the new one.
Okay. Maybe Darrow will get addicted to spice. What, team? That's funny. That's right.
Quentin Tarantino could do it. It's his speed. He could do it.
That would be good.
Because he would make it kind of trippy in some.
Yeah. And like over the
aspect.
top.
Yeah. And this is very over the top. Very much so. Yeah. And, are the Brotherhood or the Sons of Ares, that's it, are they really putting all their hope in Darrow? Or are they creating other...
Well, I mean, we know that they've done others. And so part of it makes me think, like, what if this Lorne, whatever his name is, the Doom Knight, what if he's a red?
Rage Knight?
Rage Knight. What if he's a red?
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Like
What if...
That was as far as he could make it, maybe?
What if we find out that... And we talked about this a little bit last week or the week before. What if the Sons of Ares is really an organization run by Golds? What if it's run by Augustus to control the rebellious Reds? What if it's an organization controlled by Cassius's father or some other Gold to bring down the current regime so that he can be the leader?
I mean, in 1984, the Brotherhood is really just run by the party.
I think that would be a good twist too, right? To find out that it's some powerful Gold who's using this as a tool to sort of subvert things. And then after the final battle, there's this real final battle between Darrow and this person who thought that they were manipulating the system.
Very interesting. The other Red that he killed.
Yeah.
Who was he? What was his name?
The guy's name was... I don't remember his name, but yeah, he executes him.
Did we know anything about... I mean, I guess he didn't have any family because they were all Reds.
Titus.
So
His name was Titus.
Titus.
Yeah. Well, he mentions that his family was sexually assaulted and they did it first, right? He screams that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah,
they did it first. That's why I'm doing this to them. And then he uses one of the red curse words. And then that's how Darrow catches him.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if we're ever going to see anything come back from that,
I mean, yeah, because you're right. I mean, I suppose he had like a fake family in the same way that Darrow does. Yeah. Probably not.
Yeah, it's just that was that, and that's over.
I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure that the Sons of Ares have access to information about what's happening, like in the school, right?
So they do.
Well, but then if they do, then some Gold is feeding it to them.
Yeah.
Right? So who is that?
Rage Knight.
Could be.
I want to call him Seven. That's not his name. Sever's dad.
Yeah. He could be. That'd be a fun twist. Because he hints that this is not as far as he would like to have gone. that he's better than all these people, but he's not, right? He's a sneaky little Weasley dude. He more than anybody reminds me of like a Harry Potter sort of professor. You know, somebody who's conniving, and I don't know which one necessarily, but there's a lot of those in there.
Well,
Yeah,
we can't
for sure.
trust your analysis on Harry Potter because you've only watched the movies.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm kidding.
That's fair.
I'm kidding. Fitchna.
Yep. He also has a Harry Potter sounding name. It's a very off-color name.
Wait, is Fitchner Severus' dad?
Yeah.
Or is Fitchner the proctor that was Darrow's proctor?
He is both.
Oh yeah. Forgot that detail.
Yeah,
Fitchner Snape. I need. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a character chart for the next one, and I think that's where I messed up. I thought that this would be an easy read, and there's too many characters with too many nicknames and too many ties to other things, and I was not making highlights. I wasn't making my what I taught my students to do when we had complicated books, tricks. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just reading it thinking this would be Hunger Games level easy, you know.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, somebody was telling me yesterday that, like, in my mind, this was supposed to be a young adult thing, and I was telling them, like, this is kind of crazy for young adults.
I don't
And
think
it's not.
I don't think
It is an adult. It's a young adult-esque adult novel. It's for us.
Yeah, like when you think
But
young
it's got
adult,
that style.
those are teenagers. Those are
Right, but that's what I thought this was.
Yeah, and Darrow is, to be fair, 15 or so when this first starts.
Right.
But the novel didn't start really with him at 15. We just saw what his life was like before everything changed. He is a grown person now. He is 19, 20.
Yeah, but still, like, in my mind, that's like it has all the it has all the tropes of a
Yeah.
young adult book, but it's for adults.
Oh yeah, we don't know what Io told her sister. Is she pregnant?
Maybe
Is there a kid in there somewhere?
that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting.
Little Darrow Jr.
Well, I think I've said about all I've got to say.
Darrow the 10th. There's no rules.
No rules.
Yeah. So we're going to read this next one, and we're going to figure out how we feel about this series and if the third one's going in the hat of betrayal or not.
Can we call it that?
That hat for such I had so much good stuff piled in that hat. And joke's on me because I had made the joke that I was really just going to load the hat with the one book I really wanted to read and just say that all the other books were in there. So that was hat karma getting me right there.
If you can't win, cheat. You've learned nothing from
Cheat or
this
be cheated.
book. Cheat or be
I got
cheated.
cheated. I got cheated because I chose not to cheat.
That's rich. I love it. I love it. I love it.
All
All right. Well, let's go ahead and sign off. We got stuff we got to do.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
this was fun to pick all this apart.
So okay, what do we call it? The hat of
betrayal.
The hat of betrayal.
And that's sad because that's my happy hat. It's the one that says like work hard and be nice to people. You know, that's my happy hat.
Yeah.
Hat of betrayal.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody for sticking through this book with us. Because I really do think personally that it turned up here at the end, and I am very optimistic about this second book. And I'm going to go into it with a positive attitude, which I wasn't sure I was going to be doing, because we actually picked that we were reading the second book before I even began reading for this reading, and so whenever we first pulled it, I was a bit disappointed. Like that, oh, here we go. But I really am looking forward to it, and I think we've had a lot of like interesting discussion about this. And if the second book is truly better, but continues on with the same things, same themes, I think that we will kind of be in our element for like the things that we like to talk about in books. So that's all. So go ahead and be ready to check out our syllabus soon. It may not come out immediately. We might do it this evening. We haven't actually split the book yet, so we got to figure that out.
You know, but you can just find about a third of the way, and that's where you need to read to if you're wanting to get.
We'll figure it out.
Antsy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see y'all next time.
Happy reading.
Bye.